Hello students, I'm going to teach you how to do Cornell notes for Section 1 palaces. So the first thing you want to do is you always want to start on the right and you want to highlight key phrases. So you read the first paragraph. All through Chinese history, emperors of different dynasties built palaces. A palace served many purposes. It was a protected place to live because of its high walls and defenses. It was a center of government where the emperor and all of his advisors would conduct business. Was also a symbol of imperial, which means royal, power, which towered over the city and made people view the emperor with admiration and awe. Now you want to choose key words and phrases, okay? So this is a key phrase right here. A palace served many purposes. We're going to highlight that. It was a protected place, so we're going to highlight those key words there, that it was a protected place. And it was also a place to live, so we want to put that. And the reason it was protected is because of the high walls and defenses, okay? So you could choose to highlight those or not, it's up to you. But the most important thing is that you're choosing, phrases and words that really make sense, okay? All right, next, you want to say that it was a center of government. So I'm gonna highlight that it was a center of government. And the emperor and his advisors would use it to conduct business. So I'll go ahead and put that there. And finally, it was a symbol of royal power or imperial power. That's an important phrase right there. Which towered over the city, and it made people view the emperor with admiration and awe. So I would highlight that it leads to admiration and awe as well. All right, so now we go over here and we think, okay, what is the main idea of this whole paragraph? The main idea of this whole paragraph is how emperors built protected palaces where the government was centered. Okay? Then you can put a question here, which is, why were palaces symbols of power? And then we go over here and we start to take our notes. So first thing is, they were a protected place to live, okay? And the reason that they were a protected place to live is that they had high walls, okay, and defenses. The next purpose that it had is that it was a center of government. All right, and that was a place where they could conduct business. And the last purpose that it had is that it was a symbol of imperial power. And that led to, you can do that little arrow right there, that led to an awe, sense of awe for the people. Now we go to the next paragraph. Chinese palaces were built following long-held beliefs about natural spirits. This architectural attempt to be in harmony with nature was called feng shui. The north was seen as the direction from which bad winds blew and demons might enter. For this reason, the palace gates to the north were always closed. Often buildings were placed with mountains to the north to protect from the wind. The main entrance faced south, often along a river, to let in as much sunshine as possible. So we want to highlight that the fact that palaces were built in harmony with nature, and that was called feng shui, that practice to build them in harmony with nature. You'll notice that I'm just highlighting keywords and short phrases. All right. We want to talk about how the palace gates to the north were always closed. All right. And that was because of the bad winds and the demons. All right. And then we also want to talk about how the main entrance faced south. Along a river. And they did that for the sunshine, because the sun usually is shining from the south. All right. So after we do that highlighting, we go over here. What's the main idea of this whole thing? This whole paragraph is about how palaces were built to be in harmony with nature. And I have a question, which is, why did they think demons might enter? I want to know more about the Chinese belief, ancient Chinese belief in demons. So then the main subtopics were, there's stuff about the feng shui, okay, which is palaces built in harmony with nature. Got to learn that term, feng shui. And then we want to talk about the north, okay, and that's where the gates were closed because of the wind and the demons. And then they believed in the south, the gates were open to let in the sun. All right, let's go to the next one. Gates and walls were an important aspect of imperial palaces. Ancient Chinese architecture placed a high value on enclosed, which means walled-in residences, which are places to live, with courtyards. Palaces were surrounded by tall, rectangular stone walls that provided protection and privacy. In the center of most palaces was a gigantic courtyard. So we want to talk about the gates and the walls. We want to talk about how they're important. We want to talk about ancient Chinese architecture and how they had a value on enclosed or walled places to live. And that was because they wanted protection and privacy. And in the center of most palaces was that courtyard. Okay? So the main idea of this is that ancient Chinese architecture valued walls and courtyards. My question is, what kinds of things were done in the courtyards? And then I go over here and I'm like, what are my subtopics? What are my notes over here about the walls in the courtyards? So I would say, you know, gates and walls, important architecture. And I would say the value was for protection and privacy. And then I would say in the center of palaces, there was courtyard. All right. Let's go on to the next paragraph. Beliefs about numbers played a large role in palace architecture. Since 9 is the largest number under 10, it was regarded as an extremely lucky number. For example, the gates of the Forbidden City in Beijing were decorated with 81 gold-plated bronze studs arranged in 9 columns and 9 rows. The Forbidden City, by the way, is the biggest palace in China. All right, so let's talk about how this paragraph is about beliefs about numbers. All right, and how they influence palace architecture. And we want to talk about how 9 is a lucky number. And we want to highlight highlight that gates of the Forbidden City. Oopsies. We want to talk about how they were decorated with 81 gold-plated bronze studs. And there were 9 columns and 9 rows. Okay. So my main idea here is that beliefs about numbers influenced architecture. My question is, what were some other lucky numbers? And then I would say, so their beliefs were numbers important in architecture. 9 was lucky because it was the largest under 10. And then we want to talk about those gates of the Forbidden City. Had 81 gold-plated bronze studs. Now I want to check that note because it's got a lot of words in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so you'll notice a good note is 4 to 8 connected keywords. And I just made it under because I had 8 here. And this one right here has 5 words. This one has 5 words. So you want your good words to be between 4 and 8. If it's less than 4, it doesn't have enough detail. If it's more than 8, then you're rewriting too much. Let's go on to this next one. Ideas about color influence the visual aspects of palaces. Emperors reserved the use of yellow tiles for their imperial residences. Yellow represented the emperor because the Great Yellow River was considered to be the cradle of Chinese civilization. Red could be seen throughout the palace, especially on doors, because it signified happiness. Okay. So here what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how color influenced. What was the influence of color? So color influenced the palaces. And the emperors wanted to have yellow tiles for the imperial residences. And the reason for this was because of the Great Yellow River. All right, and we also want to talk about how red could be seen throughout the palace, especially on doors, because it signified happiness. All right, so the main idea of this was about how color influenced palaces. And the question I want to have is, why did red signify happiness? All right. All right. And let's go with what are our notes we want to have? Well, we want to talk about how yellow was saved for imperial emperor. And I want to talk about how also we had red, which signified happiness, and they put it on doors. Okay. And I would say, let's see here, I actually did this wrong. I want to put that up here. We want to talk about how color influenced palaces. All right. And then we're going to do this last one here. And I would actually say that because their main idea was color influenced palaces, we actually don't need that. So we could just have 2 notes for that one. The symbolism of animals was common on the palace grounds. The most plentiful of these were the dragon and phoenix, symbols of the emperor and empress. Stone statues of lions guarded various entrance gates. Always found in a pair, the lion on the left was male and held a ball, symbolic of imperial unity. The one on the right was female and played with a lion cub, symbolic of fertility. So we're going to talk about the symbolism of animals. That's what that whole paragraph is about. And we're going to talk about how the dragon and the phoenix were symbols of the emperor and the empress. So the dragon was the emperor and the phoenix was the empress. And then we had statues of lions guarding the entrance gates. All right, and they were always found in a pair. And the lion on the left was male and held a ball, symbolic of imperial unity. Okay, so I say our main idea is symbolism of animals was common. And a question comment is, what were some other lucky animals? All right, and let's say our notes are going to be that the dragon was a symbol of the emperor. The phoenix was the symbol of the empress. And we're going to have the lions. They guard the gates in pairs. All right, that's how you can do that. And then you got to go down here and you take the quiz. Good is you use the text to find the answer. Better is you use your notes, and best is it's in your mind. So maybe just by taking the notes you would know all the answers and you could fill those in. But you can also use your notes to see the notes in red to see if you've got the answer from those. And if you need to, you can always go back and look it up. So what were the two purposes of palaces? There are actually three of them, so you could choose from any of these three. Protected place to live, symbol of government, or symbol of imperial power. So protected, or even just say protected place to live. And you could also say conduct government business. And they'll also accept symbol of power if you want to do that. All right, being in harmony with nature in your buildings is called feng shui. The main entrance, was that on the north or the south? Let's see here. The main entrance faced south. You see that in that last sentence there? So we're going to say face south. In the centermost palaces, I remember this, you would find a courtyard. And what did the following things represent? Yellow was imperial. Red was happiness. Dragon was the emperor. Phoenix was the empress. Female line with the cub was fertility. It's all about having lots of babies. And then number 9 was lucky. All right. Now I have the stamp of approval after my teacher looks at all the answers. Show it to them. Then I have the stamp of approval to build and label the stone palace walls, the north gate, and the south gate. Make sure that you color those stone palace walls in red. The color of the walls are red. Make sure the north gate is closed, and make sure the south gate is open. Have fun.